Iran is a land rich in mysteries and curiosities, especially because of its close proximity to the region described in the Holy Scriptures as the Garden of Eden. Located near ancient Iraq and Assyria, this area has long inspired questions about the different ethnic groups who now inhabit Iran and their ancestral links to the peoples of the Bible. In this video, we'll explore not only the language of the Iranians but also their history, geography, and other significant aspects. I invite you to like and share this video with anyone interested in understanding the geography, not only of the Middle East but of humanity itself, through the lens of ancient traditions and biblical narratives about the origins of nations. This is another episode in our series, The Origin of Peoples According to the Bible. In the sacred texts, particularly in the books of Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, we find several references to the peoples who lived in the area that corresponds to modern-day Iran, as well as in the surrounding territories. These people, or perhaps these groups of related tribes, are identified as the descendants of Madai, as recorded in Genesis chapter 10. But who exactly were these peoples? They were the Medes and the Persians. Many may wonder who the ancestral father of the Persians was according to the biblical record. The ancient Hebrews were well aware of the forefather of the Medes and Persians, for his lineage is clearly mentioned in the genealogies of Scripture. Even before the rise of the Persian Empire in the region that now forms Iran, the southern parts of the country were already inhabited by various Semitic tribes. In ancient times, the peoples known as Iranians, or Aryans, including the Medes and Persians, were recognized as the true inhabitants of this region. Yet before them, or perhaps living alongside them, there existed an even older civilization known both in the Bible and by historians as the Elamites. The Elamites are described in the biblical narrative as descendants of one of the most distinguished sons of Shem, one of the patriarchs of the Semitic peoples. That son was Elam. Elam migrated to the region that now forms part of modern Iran, where the ancient name Elam continued to identify the land for centuries. In this area, various Elamite tribes established themselves, recognized in biblical tradition as Semitic, although some scholars debate this classification since the Elamite language was not purely Semitic, bearing closer resemblance to Akkadian or Aramaic. Nevertheless, according to Scripture, Elam is explicitly listed in Genesis chapter 10 as one of the sons of Shem, and thus the Elamites are regarded as a Semitic people in the biblical sense. This Semitic presence is still reflected today in the genetic makeup of modern Iranians, especially among those living in the southern regions of Iran. Historical maps of the area clearly identify southern Iran as Elam, confirming that this was indeed the homeland of the Elamites, the earliest known inhabitants of what would later become Persia and eventually modern Iran. In other parts of the region, three additional groups of related peoples lived: the Medes, mentioned in the Bible as Aryans and considered the true Aryans by origin. Therefore, present-day Iranians are the result of a fusion between these ancient Semitic and Aryan peoples, yet they continue to carry strong traces of Aryan heritage. But who were these Aryan tribes that laid the foundation for modern Iran? It's important to understand that the Medo-Persian Empire and the Aryan peoples were not a single, uniform nation but rather a collection of related tribes sharing a common ancestry. These peoples inhabited not only Iran but also regions that today include Pakistan, Afghanistan, and parts of the greater Middle East. They shared both a genetic and cultural heritage descending from the ancient Median tribes known collectively as Aryans. Alongside the Medes, other neighboring groups in Iran also descended from these Aryan peoples or directly from the Medes themselves. The Medes, descendants of the ancient Aryans, are identified as one of the Japhetic peoples, tracing their lineage back to Madai, the son of Japheth, according to the biblical account. This ancestry explains their generally lighter skin tones and lighter eyes. Aryan society was highly structured, organized into a caste system that shaped both its social and religious life. At the top stood the priests, or Brahmins, next were the warriors, called Kshatriyas, followed by traders and farmers, known as Vaishyas, and finally, the laborers, called Shudras. This caste system played a central role in the order and belief systems of the ancient Aryans, deeply influencing their way of life and religion. The ancient Aryans were polytheists who worshipped many pagan gods and goddesses, many of whom are mentioned in Vedic texts. Fire worship held a central place in their rituals, and sacrifices were a key part of their devotion to the gods. The language spoken by these early Aryans was Vedic Sanskrit, an ancient form of Sanskrit that serves as the foundation of the Vedas and other sacred and literary works of ancient India. Vedic Sanskrit is among the oldest known Indo-Iranian languages. Another major group, perhaps the most famous, were the Persians. This people, often identified as both a tribe and a geographic designation within Iran, rose to great prominence in antiquity. Even today, many Iranians prefer to identify themselves as Persians. Alongside the Persians existed another Iranian tribe known as the Medes, or Parthians. These tribes together occupied much of the region that now makes up modern Iran. The Aryan or Median peoples spoke closely related languages, all belonging to the Indo-European, or Japhetic, language family. Interestingly, in the biblical book of Daniel, a mysterious hand appears in chapter 5 and writes a message that only the prophet Daniel could interpret. In this passage, mention is made of the Persian and Median peoples. The dominant language in Iran today, Persian, or Farsi, is linguistically connected to the language referenced in that text. In the story, Daniel translates the divine inscription Mein, Tekel, Upharsin, meaning that the Babylonian kingdom would be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Modern Iranians are a blend of various ethnic groups, including descendants of Madai, son of Japheth, as described in ancient traditions such as the Book of Jubilees. According to this text, Madai, the ancestor of the Medes and Persians, married a woman descended from Shem. Shem, said to have had many sons and daughters, gave one of his daughters in marriage to Madai, and from their union came these peoples. Whether literal or symbolic, this tradition emphasizes the deep ancestral connections between the Semitic and Aryan lineages that form the roots of Iran's ancient heritage. It is evident that the Islamic peoples, who are Semitic in origin, became widely mixed with populations of Median and Persian descent. Because of this, in Iran today it is common to see people with European-like features such as light-colored eyes and fair skin, while others display Semitic traits similar to those found among Middle Eastern populations such as Iraqis or Saudis. The Persians themselves are regarded as being of Iranian descent, tracing their lineage back to Madai, the son of Japheth. Many Persians share physical similarities with Europeans, and the Persian language exhibits linguistic parallels with Germanic tongues, including English. For example, the English word mother corresponds to mater in Persian, and father resembles padar in Old Persian. Likewise, the Persian word for brother, baradar, bears a striking resemblance to the English brother, further illustrating their shared Indo-European roots. These are only a few examples of the linguistic connections between Persian and other Indo-European languages, particularly English, which belongs to the Germanic branch. Numerous other examples exist, though exploring them all would require much more time and detail. Linguistically, the relationship is undeniable, yet, over time, historical intermixing with Semitic and Elamite peoples has contributed to Iran's remarkable ethnic diversity, most notably in the southern regions of the country. This diversity is reflected in the various Iranian tribes, which form a genetic mosaic composed mainly of Japhetic and Median Persian ancestry, with additional Semitic influences. This video aims to delve into the rich ethnic, linguistic, and historical heritage of the peoples who have inhabited Iran and shaped its identity. I invite you to share in the comments your suggestions about other groups whose origins spark your curiosity, so that together we can continue exploring the roots, languages, and cultures of these fascinating civilizations. That is the central purpose of this channel, and I look forward to bringing you more episodes in our series The Origin of Peoples According to the Bible. Thank you for watching, may God bless you, and see you soon.